back with Mindful Mondays. We're back in Philly. We've been traveling the globe, it seems like. I didn't put my mic on. Where is it at? Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't put my mic on. All right. And I got a dress, so let's see how I can do this where it's not too crazy looking. Okay, I got it on. Sorry about that. And so, yeah, we've been traveling a whole lot, and we are back in Philadelphia. And this, again, is Mindful Mondays. We try to bring you good content, and we've got one for you tonight. We bring you good content, whether it be Mindful Mondays or Testimonial Tuesdays, where you get to ask us more questions. And then on Wednesday, we do WIOW, Work It Out Wednesday. We unpack everything, we zhuzh it up, and we really go deep. We do a deep dive into the questions that and the testimonials that you all have given us on Tuesday, and a spirited engagement so that ultimately we can move to a place of healing and wholeness. And then, of course, we have Thoughtful Thursdays and then Freedom Fridays. And so tonight, our hot topic, you know, when I was in Arizona for my niece's graduation, we decided that the month's theme would be Level Up with Self-Care. And I came up with that, as I had said on that WIOW, was that I felt like we tend not to take care of ourselves enough. Hey, Rich, thanks for joining the show. We don't take care of ourselves enough. Marnisha's on. Hey, Marnisha, James, tell your mom I said hello, and your dad. I don't think we take care of ourselves enough. So we decided to do Level Up with Self-Care. And our theme that week was self-care is your health and wealth care. Well, May, and we're still in May, is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so what we decided to talk about today is women's rights and mental health. We decided to combine that. And there's a lot of controversy that's happening in the U.S. in particular, but also globally, about our rights as women. And in particular, I don't know if you all have been paying attention to the news and what's going on in both Alabama and Georgia, but they passed the abortion law bill that basically rolls back the clock and takes away women's rights, and then begins to dictate to women when they are able to, if at all, have an abortion. And so what they're basically saying is, it's been a debate. This has been a debate for a little while now. It's been for a long time, quite frankly. It's just resurfacing with these bills that have been signed, and there'll probably be more to come. So I want you guys to.
It's in the camera. It's a little not clear enough. It's kind of coming across fuzzy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I feel like my camera, when my phone does that all the time too. And I don't know. I don't pay attention to those kind of things. I'm sorry, guys. Am I clear? I'm clear now. Morgan's happy. Lou's happy. We're one big happy family right here. And so listen, I really want to have a serious conversation on Mindful Mondays about women's rights, about mental health, even about rights for men and rights for babies, rights for the embryo, all of our rights. How about human rights, if you will? When we get into this debate, I do feel like that there are times when we become so emotional about our position that we become polarized. And in that polarization, no one wins because nobody's listening to anyone. And we're just trying to win our argument. And what I feel is that if one person wins or one system wins and the other person loses, everybody loses. And so I want to dig into how and why this particular debate around abortion rights has gotten so just nasty, quite frankly. We're unable to even have a healthy dialogue and find common ground around what we believe. or what we believe is the healthiest way to move forward or to function. And I don't think it's not a coincidence that this debate is happening right around Mental Health Awareness Month, because we're talking about our physical rights, right? We're talking about our physical rights. But how many of you all out there know that mind, body, and spirit is all connected? So we don't just chop off our heads, right? And just say, let's just focus on our physical body. We don't just extricate ourselves from our mental state. So there are spaces within our being that are sometimes unhealthy, like our mental space, our relational space, our emotional space, sometimes our spiritual space. And if those things are unhealthy, if we are having mental health challenges, depression, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, if we're having relational issues that impact our mental state, then that also affects our physical state, right? And so when you think about what came down the pike over the last couple of weeks regarding this law to roll back the rights of many women and not give them the ability to make a decision about their bodies, that has to then affect their mental state. It has to, right? How can it not? So we want to, let's go extremes. And by the way, if you all think that this is a good conversation and you want to participate in an STLC for me, I want you to share, tag, like, and comment on this conversation. Share, share, share. We want more people to be a part of this discussion, because this discussion is not just a discussion for pomp and circumstance. It's not a discussion just for, its and giggles, I'd like to say, right? It's a conversation that I hope will be promoting healing. Marnisha's on. Hey, Nicole. Nicole's on. Thanks for joining. Anthony Wilson of the Wilson family is on. Thanks for joining the show, Anthony. Share this conversation. Let other people know that we are on. We're having a conversation tonight on Mindful Mondays about women's rights and mental health, but that also affects human rights. It affects men's rights. It affects children's rights. It affects all of our rights. And our mental state is at stake here, right? So let's go a little extreme. When you think about a woman who has been raped, brutalized, and assaulted, and then becomes pregnant as a result of that injury, that assault, that violation of her body, that she get the right to say yay or nay to, and then she becomes pregnant and then doesn't realize maybe that she's pregnant until 6 weeks. And then the state steps in and says, no. You will have to continue to relive this over and over and over, because we will not give you permission to terminate this pregnancy. How do you think that affects that person's mental state? Now, I'm not saying yay or nay for whether the woman should have an abortion or should not. I actually know people who actually have been assaulted and raped and had or became pregnant as a result of that, and they had the child, right? And loved that child. And that was their choice, and that decision was theirs to make. But if your decision is taken out of your hands, then that then becomes problematic for how we navigate the world, how we view the world, how we operate in the world, the ways in which we feel like we are invisible in the world, or whether we feel like we are voiceless or have a say in what happens to our own bodies. That's problematic as far as I'm concerned. So then there's also been an age-old debate with regards to what people are making these decisions. Are they women people or are they men people? What people are making these decisions? And are these people, when they have that seat at the table, are they taking into consideration the person that may be of a different gender than them? it is really not that different than when people say they want, desire, and value diversity, yet they don't work hard to have a diverse group of people at the table. So then you say, okay, well, we want diversity, right? And we believe that the diverse community would be a powerful and productive thing to make decisions for everyone. Yet, if you're not having Black people at the table, or you're not having Latino people at the table, you're not having Native Americans at the table, you're not having Asian people at the table, you're not having girl people or women people at the table or men people, really then the reality of it is that those decisions are then made with people who may not have a sense of urgency and a sense of agency as it relates to that particular subject matter. I want to hear what your thoughts are about that, because I really think that this not only is a hot topic, but I think it is a subject that has a tendency, it has a possibility and opportunities to hurt or harm. We say here at Faith Inc. and Connections Matter, we ask the question, are you helping to harm or are you healing the hurt, right? Are you helping to harm or are you healing the hurt? And in this conversation, it can be very toxic, it can be very pervasive, it can be very paralyzing. My niece Nicole is on. Hey, Nicole. And who else is? Nicole Turner is on. Thanks for joining the show, Nicole. I'm going to give you a call later. Your mom told me what happened, and I came right into work and really didn't get a chance to call you. So I'm going to give you a call later in reference to what recently happened today in your family, which extensively is my family as well. And so prayers up for the Alston family, and prayers up for all those that your grandmom touched. So tell me what your thoughts are. We've got women and men in this conversation. I want to see who else is on. Renina is on. Hey, Renina. Thank you for joining the show. And yes, it's a pleasure to speak on this topic. Tom is on as well. Morgan was sharing with me real briefly. I had a session. I had to run and do my session, and then I got. Then we started the conversation tonight. By the way, if you think this is an important topic, women's rights and mental health, share. Ask people to. We like to say STLC, share, tag, like, and comment. So share this information, because we're in a dialogue together, not a monologue, and we're in a community together. So I want to hear what your thoughts are. Morgan was sharing a podcast with me when we were setting up for here, and it was Dr. Boyce Watkins was talking about not just women's rights, but he was also talking about men's rights, right? And he was talking about the fact that D.L. Hughley had been on talking about men's rights and saying that if women get to have rights to abort their child based on whatever the reasoning or the rationale is, then is it okay for men to then be able to abort their financial rights, right? Is that a thing, right? And I didn't have a time to really absorb all of that. So I'm sort of processing it out in this conversation with you. And what I did say to Morgan is it's very complicated. Because when you have structures that require someone to be the lead based on their level of investment, or based on just the agreements, then when you're at a crossroads with a decision, then the decision still has to be made. And so if you have two polar opposite positions on it, whether you terminate the child or whether you keep the child, whether you're pro-life or whether you're pro-abortion, then if those two persons who have a stake in it, right, the mother and the father, have different positions on it, then how does that decision get made? Well, for many years, people have talked about, well, it's the woman's body, that we are the vessels, we are the holding place, and it is our investment, physical investment for 9 months that ultimately ushers that child into the world. It's a beautiful thing. I got to see it with my niece Nicole on Thanksgiving Day, 2018. I will never forget it. In that I was there when she was born, and then I was blessed enough to be there when my niece Joelle was born as well. And yet there really is something to be considered when you think about the man's rights as well, and whether they have a say-so in this. It gets very complicated because now you're talking about the man's rights and the woman's rights, and then you're talking about the child's rights. And when you're having these disagreements, the way that I've learned to, even in the work that I've done as a therapist all these years, is to find common ground. Finding common ground sometimes can be difficult, but absolutely necessary. Because if you don't, then you get stuck in the mire and become polarized with your position or your conviction. And you may be right, but the truth is, if one person wins and one person loses, and you get caught up in the angst and the negativity and the vitriol, then guess what? Everybody loses in that situation, including perhaps that unborn child. I want to hear what your thoughts about that are. Rick is on, Tanya's on, Carmen's on. Thanks for joining the show. Abayami's on. HU's in the house. Thanks for joining the show, Abayami. Tyrone is on as well. So I know that for many of us, if you've lived long enough, you know someone that's been pregnant, you know a woman, you know a man that's been a father, you know some mothers and fathers. You may even know someone who's made a decision to terminate a pregnancy for whatever their reason was, right? I'm not just talking about the act of termination here tonight. What I'm talking about is the connection between both rights that we have as human beings, men, women, and children, and perhaps unborn children, right? And our mental health and well-being, because this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I don't believe that mental health gets enough credit. It doesn't get enough attention. It really, when you think about even the state of the United States and the amount of money that gets spent on mental health, it's abysmal. It is abysmal. We can't even get good mental health care. Physical health care is bad enough, but then when you go to mental health care, there's even less resources available for people who have mental health conditions. And guess what? Here is the truth. I've yet to meet a human being that has grown into an adult that has not had some mental health issue. I've never met them. It is the same, and I want to normalize this, as if you've had a common cold. Humans are vulnerable to the elements and they're able to get physically sick. But we also are humans that are vulnerable to the external and internal elements, and we can get mentally ill. And that just may mean that somebody died and we're depressed. It may mean that we lost our job, or we ended up having a divorce and things aren't going well, and it's creating panic attacks or anxiety disorder. It may mean that we have some obsessions because we had to control everything. And in controlling everything in our own childhood, then we moved into this obsessive state in an adulthood that doesn't really serve us very well anymore, right? So there would be multiple ways. And then there could be additional mental health issues like addictions that many of us may have, right? That create drama and trauma. And sometimes the trauma that we have experienced early on in our childhood then begins to manifest itself sometimes in our young adulthood. And if we don't address it, then it compounds. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, which is the purpose of having therapists and psychiatrists and people who can, or I would say clinical social workers, marriage and family therapists as well, to work with the whole system. That is the purpose for people like myself and many of you out there that can work with people to help them to live a healthier life. But we don't get to be extricated from our physical being simply because people don't want to pay attention to it. And by the way, the trauma that most of us incur throughout our everyday lives, whether somebody dies or someone gets divorced or we get ill for a number of reasons. That trauma, that drama, that impacts our entire familial system. It also has the ability to impact our community. And a trauma, quite frankly, like getting pregnant, maybe an unexpected pregnancy, unanticipated pregnancy, an unplanned pregnancy, and maybe being too young or naive or not having enough information for the couple in and of itself can be traumatic. And to then add insult to injury to say, wow, you can gather this information, your hands are tied with what to do with that information because the state is taking over to determine what it is that you can do with your own body. I feel like that contributes to the mental state and the mental well-being or lack of well-being for us every day. So if you are feeling this conversation, really, I think it's important for us to have the dialogue. Abayami says it definitely does not. So tell me a little bit more, Abayami, on what you're speaking about, because I probably said a couple of different things and didn't reverberate back to that. While in the meantime, give me some thumbs up, some hearts. I'm not weighing in on one decision or another. I'm just saying, let's have the dialogue. Let's talk about this so that we can come to some common ground in our healing process. Tamia's on, Valley is on from Cali, Valley Cali. Laresa's on, Kelly's on. Hey, Kelly, my sister, thanks for joining the show. Roger just hopped on. So for those of you who, as we like to say here, are able to be, we like to say truth, trust, and transparency leads to transformational breakthroughs, right? So we just came from Nashville. I did a keynote there at the Network of Executive Women, and their motto is advancing women is just a good business. And I love the model, and I told them so, right? And think about all these women who may have the challenges of how to integrate their children. Not just women, men, because recently I think Dwayne Wade was talking about having taken family leave when he had his baby, he and Gabrielle Union. So I do think that we as a culture are advancing when we think about the integration of men, that men are not just taking care of you're not babysitting your babies if you are a dad, right? You're not. I watched my nephew Ty, do a wonderful job while I was away in Arizona, taking care of his daughter Joelle. You're not babysitting your baby. You're taking care of your baby. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing to take care of your child as the mom would do. And yet at the same time, and I think this is where a lot of guys might agree with me, that there are times when men's rights can be challenged, and where men are often feeling marginalized and othered when it comes to being able to weigh in on what happens with their child. Now, we're in a conversation about abortion rights and women's rights to have the say-so of what happens to their bodies. At the same time, there's even another topic when it comes to our community, which is when men and women come together and it doesn't work out and they separate or they divorce. Do men have the same rights as women? And when we connect the mental health, the mental well-being, and even mental issues or challenges, how much of that do we think impacts men when sometimes the courts will even say, well, now that you're divorced, you don't have any rights. Because you've chosen to leave that relationship or that marriage, then you're relegated to maybe every other weekend. Well, how is that even fair? Now, but at the same time, we also know that for children, that becomes a challenge to live with one parent one week and live with another parent the other week. And they didn't choose for their parents to separate or divorce. And so they have some rights too. And again, all of this stuff becomes complicated. And so where is the common ground? I want to hear from you all. What do you think? Have you ever had that situation, whether it's a blended family scenario, whether it's a scenario whether you and your partner are thinking about the health and well-being of your partner, the woman's body, or the child, because infant mortality rates have skyrocketed, and they are more increased, or they're more advanced for women of color, and also for women, Black and brown women, and for poor women. So we need to really address that issue. Why is it that the infant mortality rates for babies that are dying, as well as for women that are possibly dying, why has it increased in many cases, or at least it is the disparity is higher for women of color than for their sisters that are white? Is it about power? Is it about money? Is it about the agency of being able to speak up? I have a story that just resonated with me about that, but I want to hear what your thoughts are about this topic. What do men's and women's rights and human rights have to do with mental illness, mental health, mental wellness? This conversation is necessary, right? It's necessary because, by the way, tomorrow we all should be in the polls voting, right? And why should we be voting? Because who we vote into office has the potential and the possibility of being a game changer as it relates to our rights and are the rights of the people in our community or not, right? And so that's up to us. Oh, I see what Abami says. Abami says there are children in schools that are constantly causing problems. In my son's school, some of these children are children who are not diagnosed or have a clinical label but need help. Their students are held captive to their behaviors, Abami says. Let me go further. Some of these children are suffering the aftermath of domestic trauma, abuse, neglect. This resonates in situations where a couple had a child but would have aborted for the sake of the quality of life of the child and themselves. It's all so connected. Absolutely.
Now, Nicole just saying in the comment too, and you might want to reflect back on what she missed out.
Okay, gotcha.
About the comment with Joyce Watkins and.
Gotcha. I don't see Nicole's comment.
Yeah, I'll read it to you.
No, well, let me. I see it. I don't see an issue with an individual having a personal conviction about abortion, but I do have an issue with government officials taking away women's rights to choose. Absolutely. Darlene is on. Jessica is on as well. So I want to comment on both of those. I want to comment on Abami's comment first as relates to a lot of these children. You know, here's the thing. Government is, and it's sort of connected to what Nicole is saying. The government is now weighing in, right? And my position is, if you get to weigh in on women's rights to choose what happens to and with their bodies, then they then don't have a choice, you're now taking away from them, and they have this child that they are not equipped emotionally, physically, financially, or spiritually to take care of that child. Then those children end up in the classes with Abayomi's son, right? And many other people's children. Now, I'm not saying that one way or the other they shouldn't be here, but we need the resources to take care of them in the healthiest way possible. And so that we're not just throwing them out as if they're not human, right? And yes, I do believe that there are some times where children may be, and Lucy, you know, Lord knows she has expertise more than myself with this regarding being a teacher and a class being teacher for over 30 years with special needs children. There are times when there are just not the resources available to take care of every single child and to attend to all of their multiple needs. And then, I'm sure, Lucy, you would agree with this, then it doesn't take long to look beyond the child to what's going on in the family system and see that there is a connection between the parent's inability to care for that child or their inability to access resources to care for that child and the child's inability to thrive in the classroom. And so if the government is now weighing in on these things, are they going to then put forth all of the dollars that are necessary to make sure that every single child in every single school, in every single city, in every single part of the world, in particular in the US, is attended to. Everything, the books, the resources, the mental health services, you know, all of the curriculum, paying teachers what they are worth, right? And making sure that in addition to that, that you teachers don't have to be therapists at the same time, right? And, you know, I think you were, Lucy, you were not only a therapist, you were like, you know, yeah, everything, right? Bringing in clothes, which a lot of teachers do. And I know that Nicole would agree with me as well, because she's a teacher as well as her husband. With regards to Nicole's issue about not having a personal issue or a personal conviction, individual conviction, here's what I think. I think that our individual convictions are what they are. We have a right to have them, right? Excuse me, I just don't think that we have the right to take away somebody else's individual conviction based on our ideology. At that point, it becomes overreaching and functioning as a dictatorship, quite frankly. That now other people are controlling your decisions, and I don't think that's right. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's healthy. Obayemi said, how can one separate these factors? Mental health and wellness often starts at birth. However, parents bring their marital health along with them. I'm gonna address that in a second because I think that's a great comment. Okay, Hugh is on, Dawn is on. Thanks for joining the show, Hugh and Dawn. Hazel Ann is on. Thanks for joining the show as well. And the other comments is Carmen said, old, white, extremely conservative men are making these decisions for us. Agreed. And that's my point about, you know, going out and voting, right? We do have some power. Sometimes we can only control the controllables. And so going out and making decisions to vote your conscience, vote the way in which you believe that those persons will manage those constituents and take care of what your particular needs are in your community are really, really important. And when we don't do that, right, then it's hard to sit back and complain if you're not really taking advantage of what you can control. As far as what Obama said is how do you separate these factors, mental health and wellness, which often starts at birth. And then the parents, here's the caveat, the parents are bringing with them their own mental health issues. And so what we tend to say is that it doesn't take long to figure out when you start peeling back the layers like the layer of an onion, where that child may have gotten some of those mental health issues. There is that age-old conversation about nurture and nature, right? How much is nature, right? What the child was given biologically, what they came on into this earth with, and then how much is nurture, right? What they're learning, right? More sometimes is caught than is taught. And it can sometimes be a combination of both. And it's very not so easy for you to deconstruct that. But if the child is here, regardless of whether they got these health issues, mental health issues from their parents or their community, or maybe they were born with them, the bottom line is now, since people are saying that they should be responsible for whether or not that child gets here or not, well then how about then we as a community become responsible for each and every child that's on this planet, and how to make sure that to the best of our ability, they are developing in a way that they can not just survive, but thrive. How about that? Amina is on. Hey, Amina, thanks for joining the show. Please share. STLC, as I like to say, share, tag, like, and comment. This is dialogue. And I feel like this dialogue is meant to help us, because too often we are pressure cookers, right? So I want to make the analogy, because I made this analogy a little bit earlier. And tell me, y'all, if you resonate. Give me the thumbs up or the smiley faces. We are either pressure cookers or we're teapots. I heard this from actually a client of mine, and I liked it, so I'm stealing it. We are pressure cookers. Now, I've always said, Morgan says pressure burst pipes, and I say every pressure point needs a relief valve, right? And I want to ask you all, where are your pressure points? Lucy signed me up for a massage tomorrow, so I'm going to go get a massage, and I'm sure that my wonderful masseuse, Maureen, is going to work some pressure points out in my body, like that she can feel. She calls them little pearls, right? She can feel them and she starts working them out. But sometimes we don't feel where the pressure points are in other parts of our bodies, and we become like either pressure cookers or teapots. The teapot is where, if you think about tea, you pour the water in the tea and or the steam starts emitting out of the little spout. And because it is emitting gradually out of the spout, then there's not an explosion. But with a pressure cooker, right, if there's no way for the steam to emit out, then eventually you get an explosion. So it either explodes or it implodes. And for many of us, we're very much like that, right? There's a lot of stressors in our lives. There's a lot of pressure in our lives. There's a lot of trauma in our lives. And there's a lot of drama in our lives. And this is just one topic around women's rights and mental health issues, men and children and human rights. This is a human rights issue, right? And when we are experiencing this level of pressure, whether we are dealing with mental illness in our own lives, in our own relationships, in our own families, in our own communities, or whether we're dealing with simple, somebody died and we're depressed, or our job is not working out the way that we want it to and we're feeling a little blue about it, or we're trying to figure out where our next level is, but it's not happening fast enough, or we have way more month than we have money. Talk about pressure, right? Mm-hmm. Right? Lou was like, mm-hmm.
Too much month at the end of the money.
Exactly. And so when we experience that level of pressure, we need to find ways to create healthy forms of expelling that pressure. Find ways to self-soothe, quite frankly. We need to find ways to meditate, find ways to speak life and energy into us. We need to find ways, because the ways, quite frankly, the old ways of doing things to alleviate pressure is not working, right? That's like taking a little league rule book and you're playing in the NFL. It just doesn't work. Life is filled with social media and engagement everywhere we go. People are overstimulated. There's way too much to do and not enough time to do it. Way too much month and not enough money. There's not enough of us sometimes to go around, to the extent that, and I felt this way before, where you feel like you're an octopus, like, you know, and your tentacles are spread out as far as they possibly can go. You don't have any more bandwidth. And if you did, you stretch one more inch, you're going to pop. So there needs to be a way that we start learning how to attend to the pressure that is building up inside of us, which speaks to mental health, mental wellness. It speaks to becoming our own change agents, right? Mahatma Gandhi said we need to be the change we wish to see in others, and becoming our own agencies of change. Because the truth is, nobody's rescuing us. Nobody's coming to rescue us. And it's really, really important that we take on the mantle of spiritually and relationally and familially and within our communities of speaking life both into us and also into others, lifting each other up in a way that allows us to feel freer and feel whole and certainly healthier, if you will. Robin's on. Hey, Robin, thanks for joining the show. DeWanda's on. Share, STLC, as I like to say, share, tag, like, and comment. Abayumi said, children are pressure cookers if they are not given the right catheter size. I think that's the word. How do we teach children to do that if we don't know? Just like you just said, we have to find and develop ways to soothe. All right, so here's some things that we can do. And sometimes it's not rocket science. Sometimes we need to think about less is more, become more simplistic, this really is about a mindset. So resetting our mindset. And quite frankly, as I always say, the 4-letter word for love when it comes to children is time, right? So spending time and asking open-ended questions, that's part of relieving the pressure, right? When I'm working with children, I often tell the parents, I'm not going to see your kid without you. You're coming in too. I'm going to be working with you as well because your children go home to you. So even asking your children open-ended questions and giving them the opportunity to just speak, just talk, to just process. How was your day? Using key opportunities like being in the car, telling them to put their gadgets down and just having a conversation with them. Doing old school, what we used to do, which was have conversation over dinner. So having those gadget-free zones where you can connect with your children. Also finding other ways to soothe your mind, body, and spirit. So if that's soothing music in the car or at home, lighting candles that have aroma like, eucalyptus or lavender, taking a walk in the park. How many of you all know that nature walks help you to breathe better because you're taking in the oxygen that's natural from the trees? Too often what we are emitting into our bodies is gases, from the cars that we jump into to get from point A to point B. We don't take in nature in the same way that we once did. And then we don't really engage in connection. How many of you also know that when we engage in connection, it emits chemicals from our brain like serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin that are the love hormones? It's helping us to soothe ourselves. So when you think about children who are being sometimes labeled and drugged up, and sometimes they may need medication, but guess what? Sometimes they may just need some TLC. They may just need someone to hold their hand, look them in their eyes and say, I don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and I care about you. You are great. You are wonderful. You have infinite potential. All you have to do is focus on it. And I'm here to support you along the way. These are the things that we've sort of forgotten about because the world has gotten so fast. We're like a hamster on a wheel or a dog chasing his tail, as opposed to just sitting still. And how about a little prayer, right? For those of you, and I'm not just saying whatever your religion, that's not my job to tell you what religion, right? My job is to say that we're all here connected in a spiritual force of human nature, right? We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so sometimes even just sitting still and being able to use your words in prayer to lift yourself up and to lift someone else up. And in particular, your children can be calming in such a way that allows the clarity that you need in order to focus. Because sometimes our children aren't able to focus because the chaos that's going on inside of them and outside of them is so pervasive and so overwhelming that, it doesn't even make sense that they'd be able to focus, because that would be, an act of nature or something. Ginger's on, Drina's on, Michael's on. Thanks for joining the show. Debbie's on. We got a great, we got a lot of folks on here tonight. Celeste is on, OB is on. And I said Duana and Robin are on. Yeah, so Debbie Seabreeze, she's on. I think Thomas said solidarity is the answer for brokering solutions when you're in your community. Absolutely. And to speak about that, and he was also, Tom was talking about voting, and the census becomes most important, as one cannot be counted unless they participate. Absolutely. But let's talk a little bit about solidarity. Even in this topic that we started, this hot topic about the abortion laws, the abortion rights laws in Alabama and Georgia, we do also know that people who may want to have abortions will go find a way, right? And so years ago when that happened, then women would start having backstreet abortions with coat hangers and such, and that they ended up bleeding to death, and they ended up, dying, and that was not a good thing, right? I also know that we need not only to be heard at the highest levels of the ivory towers in in our political communities, but we also need grassroots communities to engage in education, right? And a movement to a place of health and well-being. So I don't know if you all know about the story I said I was going to tell you. Judge Hatchett, her son is a lobbyist, and he and his wife were having a beautiful baby boy like a year or so ago. And this was their second child, and they went into the hospital, and they were of means. They had plenty of money and resources, and they went just like anyone else to have their child. And the child was born, and the mother complained, said she wasn't feeling well. And 9 hours later, they finally listened to her and took her down to have an ultrasound or a CAT scan or MRI. And the father waited upstairs because the baby was upstairs, and the woman never made it back. And they determined that she had been bleeding internally. And that happens too often. It happens too often where people, and this is a woman of color of means, that is partnered, because that's another way in which people identify you as being valuable if you're partnered. Not that single women and single men are not valuable, because you absolutely are. I was single for a really, really long time, and I never bought into that I was not valuable because I was single and I was not partnered. But too often there are ways in which we get othered and dismissed and are rendered invisible. And that could mean our lives, literally. It does mean our lives, literally. So we have to do better. We have to figure out ways to raise up and make sure that our voices are heard, and quite frankly, make sure that people are in office that believe in making sure that everybody has a right to health care. Everybody has a right to mental health care. Everyone has a right to be mentally well as they possibly can be, and that our rights are not rolled back to a place in time where we are not valued as women, as men, as children. What are your thoughts? I mean, I started this conversation, and I want you guys to share. I like to say STLC, share, tag, like, and comment, because we want more people to engage in this conversation of healing. This is not just a conversation where we're trying to, have, a party. The goal here is to get us all thinking about where the common ground is. And in this conversation, the common ground is I think, can agree that we don't want to have anyone to lose their life, period, right? But we don't want anybody to lose their life because their rights are being stripped from them, and they are in a position where they are wanting to make a choice and they're being prevented from making that choice. Hey, Mother Waller. Hey, Mother Waller, how are you? Thanks for joining the show. I didn't see you. It's a couple other people checked in. Janelle, hey, Janelle. Simi is checked in. Thanks for joining the show. Cece, hey, Cece. Thanks for joining the show. Who else? Parnell's on. Kim Paris, thanks for joining the show. Chris, Kim Upshaw. Yeah, I said Paris Upshaw. Chris is on. Thanks for joining the show as well. Donna is on. Just got in. Sorry, I'm late. I don't mind that you're late, Mother Waller. I'm just glad that you're here. So thanks for joining the show. Let's see. Cece said, I just saw an episode on The Resident a few weeks ago based on a real life story, and it happens to more women of color than we know. The disparity rate is increasing more and more. Women of color are not being heard. They're actually hiring doulas and midwives now to feel more like they're going to be heard, because they're going to these traditional institutions and they're just not hearing them, and they're saying that they're not feeling well, and they're sort of just relegating it, or it's just about the insurance and the money that is paid, that certain medication will pay for, or the money based on the insurance or what have you. And so we've got to rise up, right? The power really lies within us, but sometimes we don't know it. We don't realize that the power lies within us. And sometimes in this particular case, like in Alabama and in Georgia, the power is being stripped from us. But there is power in numbers, and there is power in our voice. And we need to rise up together. We are stronger together. Charmaine is on. Hey, Charmaine. Obayemi said, that's a situation where art is imitating reality. Absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't see that, but I need to check out the residents.
Yeah, something, before his comment before that.
Okay. So Obayemi said, there's a gross disparity in how women of African descent are treated in hospitals. So as much as possible, sisters, go with someone. If you have to go to a hospital, go with someone. So that speaks to, Obayemi has a really, really valuable point here. And I was just saying to someone today, I believe that, as I was going to the hospital with my dad for appointment, and I was on Facebook, and I was while I was in the waiting area, and I was looking at the just paying attention. We got to pay attention to the number of people that don't have the level of support that they need, right? Because when you go into these hospitals, you're already anxious. They say statistics show that your blood pressure automatically skyrockets when you go to the hospital. And then it seems like everything is a blur, like wah, 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 wah. It's very hard to really take in everything that's going on. So we need advocates. You always need somebody to take notes. You need someone to pay attention to what the doctor is saying. You need for them to really understand what the course of treatment is. And quite frankly, to be honest with you, I do understand how this works oftentimes. There is a certain amount of time that each person is given the structure, right? And so what needs to happen is you have to then push, because you're just as important as the other person, for your voice to be heard. And if that takes more than 15 minutes, then that just has to take more than 15 minutes, because your very life could be at stake. And quite frankly, if you're pregnant, the life of your child. That is, I'm not sure how this happened, that we began to think that childbirth was an easy process, and that there was just a given that if you became pregnant, if you chose to carry this child to, delivery, point of delivery, that was going to be easy 7, 8, 9 months, right? And that for some people, God bless them, it is easy. But for others, there's a lot that could go on in that journey that could then prevent that mother or that child from being here. And we need to take it like as serious as it actually is, and not assume that this person should not have a voice and that child should not have a voice, and that father of that child should not have a voice. I want to give a shout out for the men that are on this conversation on the show tonight. Roger, I don't know if he's still on, and Tom and Obayemi, because you matter too. You matter. The heartbeat of our community in many cases is embedded in the investment that many men make in their communities. And too often, I think that for Black and brown and poor women, we are othered and discriminated against and put on the sidelines, in the margins. And so are, in many cases, men whose voices aren't heard as well. And I think that that's the case, that it feels like that I have to listen to it, that D.L. Hughley was making, and then Dr. Boyce Watkins was talking about, like, what about the men? Right. And, and I feel like it's a larger conversation where we've got to enter the conversation with love, with empathy, with compassion, with respect for one another, right? We need to enter the conversation with those articles, those principles, those values, so that we're not shaming and blaming people and embarrassing them. That's going to be really important, but the conversation needs to continue.
Maybe you should kind of, for others who came on, they may not remember what to kind of.
Gotcha. So, wait a minute, let me see what CC said. So CC said, I was so glad that they did that. The husband that lost his wife was at the end of the show. Okay, I didn't see the show, but I gotta watch the show. Bessie's on. Something about
Obayemi said something
Obayemi. Yeah. Okay. Bessie. Gotcha. Bessie, Cynthia, Sarita's on. Janelle said definitely to the men they have a voice and they need to take their place. You all have a place in this process. These babies aren't happening without you at all. So to recap a little bit of what we've been talking about tonight is Mindful Mondays, and all month we've been talking about how do you level up with self-care for women, for men. How do you level up with self-care? And because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, we decided that we always have a hot topic or something that's trending. And right now what's trending is that in Alabama and in Georgia, they passed this abortion rights bill, and they're rolling back the clock on the rights that many women have had over the years to be able to have the power of choice. Think about that. The power of choice, that in these particular states, the government is saying you've had the power of choice, and now, psych, you no longer have the power of choice.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. Psych, we're sorry, we forgot. Or no, we're not sorry, we forgot. This is not really something that you need to be in control. You can't be in control of your own body. And someone said this, that they thought that many of these decisions are being made by conservative old white men who have not been able to move the needle in their own heads and really shift their thought process to think about other. Because in order to make good decisions, political decisions that involve a diverse community, guess who you have to think about? Other. Charmaine is on. You got to think about somebody else besides yourself. Janelle is on. Thanks for joining the show, everyone. Well, yeah, gotcha. So, and Tony is on. Thanks for joining the show. So Morgan wanted me to remind you that we were talking about when we are engaging in this conversation about your human rights, right? Let's think about that. Your human rights. We're all human beings. And when you know the stars line up and that sperm connects with that embryo, and that it begins to formulate, right, and begins to grow into a human. And there's been debates about when the heart starts beating and those kinds of things, right? That there are three people. I'm not talking about God. I'm talking about three people that are involved in that process, right? There's the father, the mother, right? And then, there is the child. And the question is, are all of the rights important? Now, if you're me, I believe that everyone's rights are important, for sure. And I ultimately believe that God is ultimately in charge of this process, because quite frankly, like I just said, that this whole process of conception to delivery could be called off just like that. There is a journey that mother, that child, and even that father are on to usher this child into the earth, onto this planet. And anything could go wrong. And so what D.L. Hughley said, and Dr. Boyce Watkins, was that, well, what about the dads? Do they have rights? And if you're saying that only the moms have rights, and this is a dialogue that I like, an angle that I sort of heard, but hadn't heard put in this way. If the mom is the only one that can make the choice, then what about if the dad has the right financially to abort the child, right? I got it, babe. The dad has the right to abort the child financially. So is it balanced that way? And again, I think it's extremely complicated, which is why I said that we need to be grown up enough to have these conversations with love, compassion, empathy, mutual respect, and not get mired in our own positions, whether we be males who feel like my rights have been violated or females who feel like their rights have been violated. Why not, since we're having the conversation, how about we do the conversation in its due diligence, but we make it as important as it needs to be, and it gives us an opportunity, a new opportunity to step up and to incorporate everyone in the process. What does that mean? That doesn't necessarily mean that everybody will get exactly what they want, because how many systems do you know where everybody gets exactly what they want. I don't know many, right? And sometimes what happens even in the one-on-one relationships is that one person gets everything they want. What does that mean? Somebody doesn't get something. Somebody is being othered. Somebody is being marginalized. Somebody is being set to the margin. So what that means is maybe we got to balance the playing field a little bit better with inclusion, right? We talk about an inclusion revolution, right? In order to have an inclusion revolution, who do you have to have? You have to have everybody at the table. You got to include the people who have the marginalized voices so that they can say, listen, I feel like I've been sitting on the margins. I've been, relegated to be an outlier. And I want to be included. I need to be included. I deserve to be included, because then in that inclusionary revolution, we can make better choices and we can be stronger together, as opposed to pushing somebody to the outside and saying, you know what, I don't care what your experience is. I'm going to make this decision for you and you're going to have to live with it. That is not okay. That is not humane. It's not civilized. It's not right. And we need to do better. Donna jumped on and she said, I was sent to Johns Hopkins after my face caught fire during a minor eye procedure. I had second and third degree burns. They tried to send me home straight from the ICU. I requested an advocate. They kept asking me why. I said, you will not send me from the ICU home when I haven't been able to wash my own face. The advocate now always ask if you are not sure. I love it. I am so sorry that happened to you, Donna, but I'm appreciative of you sharing your story. We say here at Faith Thinking Connections Matter, truth, trust, and transparency leads to transformational breakthroughs, right? And what that means is that sometimes we can connect with someone else's story if they're able to be authentic with us, and we can utilize their test, and their testimony is fuel and power for our health and our wholeness and our healing. And so, thank goodness that you had the wherewithal to insist on an advocate to get your needs met, right? But there was something, I think, in you already that informed you that it's okay to ask, it's okay to insist, it's okay to push, right? The thing about that, though, is that there are so many women, Black and brown women, women in general, there are so many poor people who don't even give themselves permission. They just see the white coat in the hospital and they see the power that that person has, and they don't give themselves permission to utilize their voice to even ask for an advocate. And so if they had that same situation like you did, Donna, where they're burned and they're in the ICU and somebody's pushing them out of the door, usually because they want somebody else in that bed that has the potential to bring more money into that hospital. So they push you out whether you're ready or not. And that's just not okay. It's inhumane behavior. Hey, Velva Lily Jefferson from Philly. Velv is on. Thanks for joining the show, Velv. Abayami said, you said it. We must find common ground. First, what do we think spiritually? What do we feel emotionally? And then we must talk about what is in the future for mom, dad, baby, in terms of quality of life and mental and emotional health. Absolutely. Absolutely. Angel's on as well. Hey, Angel. Earl is on. Earl HU's in the house. I know Abayami and Earl must know each other. Earl's got a wonderful documentary out. Can you list, Earl, your documentary in the chat so people can follow you? Because I know that you all are going all through Europe and doing some wonderful things. If you all are just hopping on, I asked you, and Cynthia's on. Thanks for joining the show, Cynthia. I asked you to share STLC, share, tag, like, and comment, share, because this is a dialogue. This is a dialogue where we work towards being better. Here at Faith Inc. and Connections Matter, we ask people, are you helping to heal, helping to harm rather, or are you healing the hurt? Because words matter, right? And when we're utilizing our words, they come from our beliefs in things, and our beliefs turn into words that then turn into action. And those actions can be harmful. those actions can hurt, they can re-injure, they can contribute to the trauma that people are already suffering from. And even the actions that were taking place last week and this week regarding this bill around women's rights, I have a feeling that is going to be impactful to our entire community. You know, we have to be the change we wish to see in others, which means that we need to make a difference. We need to make the decision to be stronger together and have dialogues like this so that we can then determine for ourselves, for even our children, you know, what and how we can choose our rights. What, where, and how do we need to advocate for ourselves in every area that we function in, whether we're sick and in a hospital, whether we're in the classroom and we have a teacher that's not supporting us or teaching us, whether we are in our jobs. And quite frankly, many of us often feel very marginalized and others in our jobs because we're stuck in sort of in a triangle, right? We have to get a paycheck in order to take care of ourselves, and at the same time, oftentimes are feeling overworked, overwhelmed, underutilized, devalued, misused, not cared for, and those feelings then reverberate back to not feeling mentally well. Not feeling mentally well is a thing, right? But think about it. Even within our structure, we can put time in for if we're sick, right? They call it a sick day. But how many of us feel comfortable not feeling mentally well and calling in and saying, I want to take a sick day? But aren't you sick?
Not one person. They pray. You lost that money.
Right. Well, if you called in and say, you know what, I don't feel mentally well, I'm going to take a sick day. I don't think that would go too well,
But
right?
some people call it mental health. I think a mental health day.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's a mental health day. But it's not on the books as a mental health day. You really have to call in and say, I'm going to take a sick day. But really what it is that you need to take care of your mental health and well-being, and that means that you need to sort of step away to really sow positive energy into you. Begin, meditate, whatever, do a nature walk, whatever you need to do, you need some time out to take care of yourself. When we are overworked, and many of us are, when we're not getting enough sleep, when we're not getting enough rest, when we're not taking care of our minds, our bodies, our spirits, right? When we're not in healthy relationship with one another, all of that begins to build, and we become like ticking time bombs in a pressure cooker. Mm-hmm. And pressure bursts pipes. Every pressure point needs a relief valve. And if we're not careful, we can function at some point, and at some point, the bottom falls out, and we're not well. Everything has a saturation point. And what I see too often is we don't even know when we're not well. Mental health matters. Mm-hmm. We don't sometimes even, we're so busy pushing, stretching, trying to get it all done like a hamster on a wheel. We don't even know when we're not mentally well, or we're not willing to take a look at it and pay attention to it. Donna says, amen. I didn't want anyone to know at first, but you are right about people not speaking out. Let's stop waiting for someone to do something. Each of us is someone. I love it. Absolutely. We are all someone. We all matter. We all have a voice. But the world oftentimes has given us the messaging that we don't matter, whether we're female or male or whether we're a child. And we've got to reverberate. We got to turn what they call it reverse engineering. We have to begin from the inside out, beginning to build ourselves up so that if we get negative messaging from the outside, that we will reject it. Garland's on. Hey, Garland, Michi. Thanks for joining the show, Michi. Can you guys let me know if you can hear and see me? I see it's live and it's continuing, but you all let me know. Cece says I call it Mental Health Day. They would want me to. That's great. Janelle says, but we need to take care of our minds. You are speaking the truth. It's back. So it was out for you guys, but it was not out for me for some reason. It's back. Okay, great. Feed died, but it came back. Great. Marshall's on. Hey, Marshall, thanks for joining the show. Wanda's on. Thanks for joining the show again. Keith is on. Thanks for joining. Marcus, I see you. Earl, let's see. Please list your documentary link. Earl, don't forget to list your documentary link so that we can make sure. And guys, give me some thumbs up. Give me some hearts. Give me some smiley faces if you like this content. If this resonates with you. I can't see how it doesn't, because we're all human. We're all in relationship. We're all on this planet together. Sharon's on. We, in the last couple minutes, we've been talking about mental health matters. And we started out by talking, thank you for my hearts. I appreciate it. Give me my thumbs up and smiley faces. That makes me feel good, all warm and fuzzy on the inside. We've been talking about leveling up with self-care. I am praying, I am hoping, I am asking for you all to level up with self-care, whatever you do this week. Make it your mission. Make it your priority. Put your oxygen mask on first. Level up with self-care. Take your mental health day if you need to. This conversation about women's rights and mental health really needs to be an extended conversation about men's rights and mental health, women's rights and mental health, children's rights and mental health, which all equals human rights and mental health. Mental health is your wealth. Okay? Remember that. Mental health is your wealth. We can't do anything if we're not mentally well. And we really can't. And so even the conversation about the rights that we have and the voting, we're voting in Philadelphia tomorrow. Go to the polls, vote your conscience. You can't speak up if you don't vote. And it's important for us to be able to speak up, to speak out, right? To lift each other up, to show up and show out. And if we aren't unable to do that, then we need to ask ourselves why. So then, another thing I just want to say is that if you are struggling, right? And share this right now. Share, tag, like, and comment. If you're struggling, you don't have to struggle in silence. If you're struggling with issues around your past, your present, your thoughts about your future, if you feel like you're not as mentally well as you could be, you're not enjoying your life, you don't have joy on the inside, right? And you're not able to access that ability to be content and enjoy your life, or your life is unbalanced where you're working all the time, but you don't have a whole lot of time to play and, experience life the way that it's supposed to be experienced, because truly we are here for a short period of time, right? We are here for a short period of time. There is birth, there is death. You believe you believe there is life after death, but then here on this planet, you got the dash. And the question is, what are you doing in your dash? Are you sitting on the sidelines, or are you showing up and you're playing the game, you're playing big, you're playing full out, you're enjoying it, you're making it happen. And as you are feeling the abundance of that joy, right? If you are creating a paradigm shift, then guess what? You connect with other people, because as they see your brilliance and your greatness and all the wonderful things that you're doing, you're giving energy to the world so that you then allow other people to do the same, right? You're giving them permission to show up and show out. So if that's not you, if that's not happening for you, try therapy, right? I've been committed my entire life to helping people to heal. Mm-hmm. Heal in the darkest places of their lives, because they don't have to stay stuck there. They don't have to stay stuck in a place that is not serving them well. Because as we're healthier ourselves, leveling up with self-care, then we can then be helpful to others. So if you're interested, reach out. You can reach me at Dr. Argie at connectionsmatterllc.com or drargieconnects.com. Of course, you can reach me on the social media platforms as well. Check out our YouTube videos. They are on YouTube on Connections Matter, as well as on the Ask Dr. Argie platform. And and call me at 215-789-6999. Right. I'm going to give the last comment, the comments to folks. Cynthia, I don't know if I read this one. And Julie's on. Hey, Julie, thanks for joining the show. Cynthia said, I found, is that the same one?
No. You got Vincent CC, not out for me, is when they have the issues about, not saying Angel Blake's.
Okay, gotcha. So Angel says, being in the caregiver field, I'd be wanting to call out, but I know people always need help. I can't wait for a vacation to clear my mind and be stressed and de-stressed sometimes. I think that's great, Angel, to take a vacation, but I'm going to challenge you and encourage you that most of us, if we're working really hard, give me the thumbs up and the smiley faces and the hearts. Most of us that are working really hard, we get to take maybe 1 or 2 vacations a year, maybe 3, if we're blessed, and that is a wonderful blessing. But in between those vacations, I want all of us, including you, Angel, take your mental health day, take your nature walks, find time and space to put your oxygen mask on and take care of you in between those times. Because what happens is sometimes we get so filled with the pressures and the stressors that by the time we get on a vacation, we're like wiped out. We can't even enjoy the vacation because we're so overwhelmed. And then when we come back, we need a vacation from the vacation. So it needs to be a constant and steady and consistent formula for taking care of you no matter what. Sherry is on. Thanks for joining the show. George is on. Thanks for joining the show. Who else did you see, babe? Abayami said part of mental health is doing what you say. Absolutely. Stop, breathe, go for a walk, any type of being still in some way. And we sometimes take better care of our cars than we do our minds and emotions. I like that. You're absolutely, be still. I love that. Don't, you know what? Interesting enough, my pastor used to say, dogs don't bark at parked cars, right? And I like the comment. I hadn't thought about that, but sometimes we do take care of our cars better than we do ourselves. So being still is really, really important. Let's see, Donna says you have to take care of yourself. Absolutely. Carmen said, no vote, no change, no progress. We must vote. Absolutely, Carmen. And Cynthia says, I have found that when I don't think about myself, I have put myself in a position where I make myself sick. If I don't take care if you don't take care of your own mental health, it's not only can lead to other illnesses within, but you cannot be of value to others if you can't value yourself. Absolutely. Abayami says, thanks, Argie. Always awesome and enlightening. Love you. My regards to Morgan. Oh, thank you, Abayami.
Appreciate you,
I love you too. Eddie is on. Relax, relate, release. Abayami says, Janelle says, don't postpone your own health. I'm going to say that again because Janelle said it. Do not postpone your own health. Get your checkups from the neck up and the neck down. Do the things that you need to do to take care of your health, your physical health, your mental health, mind, body, and spirit is all connected. And you wouldn't postpone going on your job. Well, your health is your job. Your health is your wealth. Do not put yourself on the back burner. Take care of you. You cannot take care of anyone else if you don't take care of yourself. And Carmen says, take your sick days or your mental health days. Use some vacation days for extended weekends and leave your office in the workplace for lunch. And that's a really good one that I hadn't said, that I had said before in a couple sessions ago. Take the lunch. For a long time, I didn't take lunch. I would go get my food and work at the desk. Get out. The weather is nice. Go for a walk. It's okay. You can do that for 5 minutes or take, do your meditation. Download the Calm app. Do something that speaks into you life, love, truth, and accountability, because ultimately that will end up equaling hope and freedom. Tony Elder Tate Jr. is on as well. So we had a rich discussion tonight. Sherry is on. I want to make sure that I get everybody. We are going to continue this conversation Wanda's on. Marcus was on. I want to make sure, excuse me, make sure that I got everybody. We had a rich conversation tonight. Tomorrow, this is what I want you to do. First of all, take stock in whether or not you're taking good care of yourself. And if you're not, let's start it. Also, we'll put a link out. Give us your testimonials and your questions, and we're going to do a Work It Out Wednesday. That's going to be awesome. And we're going to really deconstruct why we make some decisions that we do about our own mental health or the lack of it, right? And also, what are the other rights that we need to really begin to think about when it comes to our communities, our families, our workspaces? How do we need to, invest in our rights? And then, of course, we do Thoughtful Thursdays and Freedom Fridays. So it's been awesome, guys, tonight. And I just want to say I love you guys, right? It's been awesome. This is Dr. Argie, your global relationship transformationalist. I want you to have a wonderful night. From my heart to yours. I'll see you next time, guys. Take care. Love you.